guys, and welcome back to another episode of the 100 Baby Challenge. Today's episode is starting off in our brand new tiny home right here in Oasis Springs, one of the base game worlds. And I'm quite excited to start in a tiny house for the next 10 to 15 babies because the tiny house obviously has the benefit of gaining the skills a lot quicker, which I believe will be a big help in the toddler phase. As of right now, we have two kiddos, Elsa and Elmo, and we have two newborns, Kim and Cusco. So at the
Exonoizons?
moment, our matriarch is
Wasusa!
not pregnant, which means that is something that we need to work on as soon as possible, which means we need to get onto Cupid's corner and try to find her a potential match. So Cupid's corner has been really, really helpful in this challenge with regards to finding baby daddies because, looking around while having to raise children can be quite difficult. So we scrolled and we swiped and we tried to find a few matches just to have a potential new baby daddy, which we did end up finding. Please don't mind the appearance. He obviously had on some custom content that is no longer in the game. And
Packnoid
so
Lingua?
because
Laya!
we're in a tiny home and we do not have a bed because they don't really
Bow!
need that, thanks to the Plumbite, I went with the
Ijo
bush, the
Bling!
party bush, which they did seem to quite like in the previous house because they would always run towards it. So I just made sure that that was available on the outside, hidden behind a tree where absolutely no one would be able to see them. And by no one, I mean the children. We need to protect the children. So while the children are busy inside, they had this bush over here to get the business done. Shall we just say it like that? Okay, so while we were working on the next baby daddy, the kiddos were just, working on their school projects as they should be, so that we could get them to grade up as quickly as possible. They are currently still C students. So after the whole affair, we went to go take a pregnancy test, and it came out positive like almost immediately, which is great, which is what we want. And then it was time to send him home and start working on some of the other things that we need to be doing, which one is to keep having an income for whichever house we need to move in next, or if we need to buy the school projects. So we did continue on with
Haro
painting.
Gava!
We did also do a little garden outside with some snapdragons, which will come in very handy. And
Naya!
so it was just time to take care of the newborns, make sure that the kiddos were working on those school projects so that we can
Nimona!
get them up to
Nito!
A's and aged up into teenagers as soon as
Omiva!
possible. And as you can see, our matriarch really was trying to balance the newborns and the kiddos, trying to spend some time with both or with all of them to, split her attention, even though she's just one person. But the newborns were quite demanding, so she couldn't help all that much. After checking the calendar, I did realize that the newborns were actually
What?
having their birthdays today, so it was time for us to age them up into
Noi!
infants. And once we could get through the infant phase, we can get to the toddlers where things start becoming a little less difficult because from toddlers, they can start off do most of the things themselves. So I was going to age them up into infants as soon as possible to make sure that the newborn phase is over. So we aged up little Cusco first, randomized the trait as always, and he came out, immediately got that little milestone as they always do. Very, very cute. And then, of course, we had to age up his little sister Kim as well. They were named after Cusco from the Emperor's New Group and Kim Possible. So that is where we got those names, just if you were wondering. And then little Kim aged up as well. We randomized her trait as always, and they came out quite cute. And then it was time for them to get on the playmats and start working on those milestones, playing with toys, looking at toys, and eventually the tummy time would have to start. They were quite good with the first few milestones, the grab and all of that. They did get those quite quickly, which I was very happy about. And then Cassandra started doing tummy time as soon as she could, and she had to kind of split her attention between the two babies. So we would do some tummy time with Cusco, do some tummy time with Kim, just to kind of work on both the milestones together. Because they're twins, we wanted to make sure that they kind of would be able to age up together. And then while she was doing tummy time with the babies, we got the wagon, and I decided that she was actually going to try and be friends with her neighbors because just now we need a new baby daddy, and at least then we would have some sort of relationship with some of the neighbors already. So she entertained the neighbors, chatted to them for a bit while the infants were just playing with their little toys on the playmat. The kiddos were still full steam ahead working on their school projects. So, all in all, things were going pretty well for our 100 baby household. Well, I didn't want to keep the welcome wagon hanging around too long, so I just did a few nice friendly interactions, complimented a few outfits, made sure that the neighbors knew, we were a friendly bunch. But then it was time for us to get back to the tummy time. As always, in the 100 baby house, they do things I don't want them to, so she took little Kim off the playmat and did tummy time on the rug, which you know what? At least she was doing the tummy time, so I was not going to complain. We were working on those milestones, making sure that we get it. They were not happy about, the tummy time because they never are. But those milestones were starting to roll in, which is, you need to have some no pain, no gain, as they say. At least with little Cusco, she decided to stick to the playmat that I had bought to do the tummy time, which of course he was not enjoying, but we needed to get this done. As soon as the infant phase is over, most of the difficulty is over. Once they are toddlers, it's smooth sailing from there. So, luckily for me, the milestones were not taking too long. We were working on them, working on them, working on them constantly. I need to say that the plum bite is a complete lifesaver. I've obviously probably said this before a million times, but thanks to the fact that they didn't need to eat or sleep, it really just makes things go a lot faster because we can just constantly be working. So it was just, it was a grind with the infants, getting the milestones. The kids were basically just taking care of themselves. They were doing school projects, they were kind of entertaining each other. So they were like chatting while doing the school projects. So, at least they were not lonely. And because it's a tiny home, we're all like in the same space constantly. So, you're around your family the whole time. So everyone was getting attention. It was all good. So we had to get back to the tummy time. We were doing pretty well with some of the milestones. They did still need one fine motor and then one of the growth motor. The firsts are pretty easy to get. You give them a bubble bath. That's first bubble bath done. Then I just invite over one of the previous kiddos from the house and introduce them to the newborns or to the infants, and that gets their first visitor milestone. So that's three done. So really, what we needed to be working on was okay. So the fine motor, they kind of just get on their own, as you can see. That didn't take long at all. We really needed to work on the gross motor and then also some of the social, but the social would come later. For now, it was tummy time all the time. We needed to get those milestones out of the way so that they can become toddlers and Cassandra can, just focus on doing whatever else it is that Cassandra does. So they had all of their fine motor milestones at this point, which means we needed the one more gross motor. We needed um the social and the first. So all of the tummy time was definitely paying off because they started getting those gross motor milestones, the last one that we needed, which is just fantastic because tummy time even though with the plum bite we would be able to do it more often, they really do not enjoy it. So they're constantly crying, constantly screaming. And infants, even though they have the plum bite and they don't need to sleep, they still want to sleep. So they get very cranky. So as you can see here, it was time for Cusco to get his first bubble bath to check off two more milestones. The first bath, first bubble bath. And this is such a cute interaction to me. It's just so adorable. Them sitting in the little chair with the bubbles all around. It's so cute. So I thought, let me just show you that. So you can see there, that's two firsts down. So Cusco just needed one more first and one more social so that he can become a whole toddler. So, of course, we also were working with Kim at the same time to make sure that she was getting all of her milestones as well, because they are twins. So, when they're twins, I do like to kind of age them up together. I mean, that doesn't always happen, but that is kind of what I'd like. So, as you can see here, little Kim was back with the tummy time, which she completely just hates, but at least she was on her comfy playmat this time and not just on the rug. Uh, Little Cusco was just snoozing away because he could roll over all the time now, and he was like, I'm gonna just snooze away, which was fine because he had the majority of his milestones done. We needed to focus on little Kim here and made sure that she got all of her milestones as well. Even though, tummy time is their least favorite time. But it eventually paid off. All the effort, all the streaming, all the tears, it paid off because she got her gross murder milestone. And now it was time for her first bubble ball to get those two first milestones. And again, it's just so cute. The bubbles, the little chair. It's so adorable. And that ticks off two milestones as well. So, it just really, really helps to know these little hacks, which I need to say I did not think of myself. I watched a bunch of other 100 Baby Challenge videos and just picked up a lot of tips and tricks from other people. So thank you all who are playing those challenges. You are giving me such good advice. So yeah, we were basically almost done with the infant milestones. As you can see, we needed one more first, which we will do with the first visitor, and we needed the social. So the social, I kind of feel is just a little bit random, but I did have them cooing it at each other, smiling at each other to try and see if I can kind of move that along to get the social going. Because apparently that does help. I don't know, but I was just doing it anyway to see if we can get that social milestone as quickly as possible so that we can leave our infant phase behind for a bit. I really don't want infants and newborns at the same time because I know Cassandra was going to give birth. Um, and I want them to be at least toddlers before she gives birth to a newborn. So here you can see Cassandra was just chatting with them, playing some peekaboo, trying to see if we can get those social milestones to make sure that we just get it all done as quickly as possible. Here I invited over, I believe this is Fanta, one of our previous 100 babies, to just introduce him to his new siblings. So that would take care of the first visitor milestone, which would then also complete our three firsts in the milestones because they got their first bath, first bubble bath, and then first visitor, which means that is another milestone complete. And then we were basically all the way there, and we just needed to make sure they got that last social, and then we could age them up into toddlers and start working on building those toddler skills as well. So yeah, I mean the infant milestones were going pretty quickly. We're on a stage now where we basically are getting through the infant phase before, like within the time that Cassandra is pregnant. So that is pretty good for a timeline. It means that the challenge is going to go a bit quicker as well if we can get the infants all the way up to toddlers and maybe even very close to becoming kids before she gives birth. That is going to help us a lot. And we will also be able to move out the teenagers or the young adults quicker, which means there will always be a room for new babies. So as you can see here, Cusco had gotten all of his milestones except for that last social. So that is what we would be working on. Just that last one to get them to the finish line and get them to toddlerhood. So that was the goal, was just that last social milestone for both of them. So they were going to be cooing at each other, they were going to be smiling at each other. Cassandra would be around chit-chatting with them as well to just get them over the finish line for that last social milestone so that they can become glorious toddlers and all of the tummy time and milestones would be a thing of the past. So that is what I set them up to do, to make sure that they got those milestones done and dusted. So, as you can see, our kiddos came back from school as well in the meantime. They both went up to be students, so I needed to make sure I set them up to do their homework and then extra credit work and projects because we need them to age up as well. And while they were busy working away on that homework, we got a little social milestone, which was so exciting. That meant that we could start aging up these infants into toddlers, which was honestly such a huge relief. Very soon after, Cusco also got his social milestone. That meant that they both had reached all of the milestones that they needed to become toddlers, which was, as I said, such a huge relief because toddlers are a lot more independent already. The only thing you basically need to help them with is the potty training if they are not independent. So I was so happy, and it was time for little Cusco to blow out his candles. Look at that. Such a cutie pie. And it was time to become a toddler for little Cusco. So, as always, we randomized the trait, and he is a little charmer, which just makes sense. It does definitely make sense. And after that, it was little Kim's turn to age up as well and, embrace the joys of toddlerhood with her brother Cusco, who was already working on his thinking skill, by the way, by watching the kids do their project. So little Kim aged up into a toddler as well. We randomized her trait and she got angelic, which was so cute. So yeah, the kids doing their school projects was actually a big help because they could just watch them and get that thinking skill up in like literally 2 seconds, because we know that that is the best way to get the thinking skill up, by watching. And because we are in a tiny home, these skills were definitely just flying up. I was thinking that we could get them basically finished with their toddler skills before the new baby or babies were even born. As always, we sold a bunch of the birthday gifts that we got in the mail. Just another set way of getting an income into this house. And we got quite a lot of money because there were a lot of gifts being sent. So, as I mentioned, they just flew through that thinking skill, watching their siblings do those school projects, which meant we could move on to different toddler skills pretty quickly. So they were doing most of their skills. So they were doing the thinking and the communication inside with watching and then the bear. And then they would have to do imagination and movement outside because the tent and the slide are outside, obviously, because this is a tiny home. Fitting such large items into the house was a little bit difficult. So I left them outside because we are in Oasis Springs as well. I wasn't expecting a lot of rain to come our way. I mean, it is the desert, so I felt relatively safe with putting those bigger items outside, and those skills were honestly just flying up. It was like in no time at all that I would just get the pop up that reach level 2, reach level 3, and honestly, I love this tiny home. Now, obviously, we're not going to be playing here forever. I feel like just to make the challenge a bit more interesting, it is fun to kind of move house and worlds often to keep the challenge interesting. That's why we're moving every 10 to 15 babies. But for now, I'm going to enjoy the perks of this tiny home, which means that the skills in this place is going to be insanely quick. Building skills is going to be like a sprint at this point, where previously it did take quite a while at some point. So I had Cassandra bring out little Cusco to start working on that imagination skill because obviously, since they do not have the movement skill as yet, they can't really go downstairs. So I had her bring little Cusco out to go play inside the tent to start working on that imagination skill. And little Kim was doing fantastically as well. Her skills were also just flying up. It was honestly insane how quickly the skills were going up. Not that I'm complaining. Honestly, it is awesome because that just means that they were going to be kids a lot quicker. And of course, we had little Kim working on the movement skill while Kuska was working on the imagination skill. So they were outside and they were just working away, getting those skills up. The kids were inside doing school projects. Everyone was just, doing what needed to be done, and it was just going spectacularly, honestly. Luckily, the Plumbites are charging outside, which means that they still are like by the toddlers while they are building their skills. And I love this tiny home so much. I'm probably never going to stop talking about it. But yes, these toddlers were picking up these skills. It was honestly a lot of fun working with the skills because it was going so quickly. And we kept at it. We kept on the grind. The imagination skill was like 2 seconds and it was done. So little Cusco had to start working on the um, movement skill as well. So, since they both had completed the imagination skill very quickly while they were still busy with the movement skill, I had one of them using the slide and the other one just kind of wandering around to kind of get the movement skill working while we were waiting for the slide to be free. So yes, we were doing the thing. So once they were done with the movement skill, we would only have the potty skill left to go. And that is the only one where Cassandra actually needs to help them because neither of them got the independent trait. That means that they were gonna need some potty training at least until level 2, because on level 2 they can start doing it themselves. So, of course, it was time to start little Cusco's potty training. Kim still had a bit to go with the movement skills, so while she was working on that, I decided for Cassandra to get started with Cusco's potty training and to get that skill started because as soon as he is on level 2, he can do it himself, and then she doesn't need to be involved with that anymore, which means she will be free to help out little Kim. I was very interested to see how quickly the potty skill would go up in a tiny home because I know it is one of the skills that usually takes a lot longer than the others to get. So I was like very intrigued to see if it would go up all that much quicker than it usually did. So yeah, so we potty trained Cusco and Kim. I don't think I got them up to a level 2 in the first little training, but I think it took like 2 seconds into the second training for them to get potty level 2, which means that, they were all on their own right now. So that was pretty good. That did actually go a lot quicker than previous occasions. Usually it would take about 3 potty training sessions with the matriarch to actually get them up to level 2, which means that the tiny home definitely does help in that aspect as well. The potty skill does go quite a lot quicker, and at this point, I don't want to move out of this house ever, but of course, we would have to, and I'm not looking forward to that. So, as you can see here, they were just working on it, working hard, getting it done. And I was just glad that it was going so much faster so they would not have to be doing this forever, which means good for them as well, because they don't really like the whole potty training situation. But if they got it up that much quicker, they would not have to spend as much time on it, which means happy child, all of the things. So as you can see here, little Cusco had already gotten all of his skills to level 3 in like record time, which means he would actually be aging up into a kid before Cassandra even gave birth. As you remember, she got pregnant in the beginning of the episode, and he is now already a kid. He went from newborn to kid in the time it took is taking her to give birth. So as always, we randomized the trait for little Cusco, and then I did use a number generator to get the aspiration. Unfortunately, I could not film it on screen, but we did get the number 3, which was the rambunctious scamp. Okay. So that was awesome. Knowing that the toddler skills would be going this quickly was honestly just amazing. And of course, as we do, we got little Cusco started on his homework right away. And then little Kim Kim got her potty skill up to level 3 just very quickly after that, which means all of her skills were now up to level 3. So she would be aging up into a kid as well, which was very exciting, which means no more toddlers. We got all the kiddos taking care of themselves, taking care of their own things. And Kim decided to walk outside to age up, which, to each their own. And of course, we randomized her trait as well. And I did do the random number generator for her aspiration, which was Whiz Kid. So there we go. We went from newborns to children in the time that it took Cassandra to, give birth. The kids were actually off to school at the moment, so I was hoping that we would be able to age them up into teenagers because they should be coming back with A's from all the school projects, extra credit, and homework that they had been doing. So I was very excited about that as well. But we had to get a little Kimmy Kim over here started on her homework as well because they would be going to school the next day, and we needed to make sure that those grades went up as quickly as possible so that we can, keep it moving, keep the number going, get them into high school as soon as possible, and then of course out of the house. It kind of sounds very mean when you say it like that, but yes. So there was a glitch. I don't know exactly what happened, but Elsa actually came home from school earlier than she was supposed to, and I did not get the option to send her back, which means that she would not be getting an A and aging up into a teenager. I was a little bit upset about that because Alma was still at school, but she wasn't. I don't know what happened. But okay, I decided to cut my losses and to get her doing homework and school projects as soon as possible. Also, again, selling those gifts that we got in the mail for some quick cash into the household fund. And we were making a lot of money with these gifts. And so we were just waiting for the last phase of this episode, which was to welcome the new baby or babies to the house, which happened quite quickly after because Cassandra had been in the third trimester for a while already at this point. So it was time to meet the new addition or additions to the family. As you remember, in the last wheel spin, we got the letter Z or Z. And that is the name that we're going to be using. I will be doing the next spin in a YouTube short, so keep an eye out for that, and you can go comment your name suggestions there. Any fictional characters is what we're doing. So we got a little baby girl, and I decided to use the name Zoe from Zoe 101, which was a show on Nickelodeon back in the day. And for the first time in very long, we only had one baby, and I did have the onlay line thing on. But you know what? I wasn't going to complain. A baby is a baby. But I decided to end the episode here because we had done quite a lot. We would see how Elmo did in school in the next episode. But I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.